Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of Casing the Joint, brought to you by the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles. So on Casing the Joint, we like to take a look at some of the smaller items that are on display. We don't want them to get lost amongst all these really cool cars and trucks and all the big things and flashy things. We have some really neat little stuff too. Most of it's in cases, but not today's. I pulled ours out of our 1921 Sun Oil gas station.
It was encased in our Sun Oil station.
It was encased in there. That's a big case.
It's
a big display case.
It is.
We have a lot of things in there to kind of outfit it to make it look like it was pulled right from 1920s, including these two cans here. So I'm going to talk about those a little bit. What do you think they're for, Dan?
Well, being
big mystery, being that it's in a gas station.
At first I thought they were milk cans, okay? Being the rural person I am.
Yes.
From suburban New Jersey, okay?
From cow country.
But then I figured, well, what would milk cans be doing in a gas station? So Kendra straightened me out and told me what.
They are gas cans.
Okay.
Now, real quick, before we get to these cans and why we have gas cans like this, we're going to do a quick lickety-split summary of gasoline industry real fast here. So in 1859, something very important happened, actually right here in Pennsylvania.
Pumping for oil.
That's right. Edwin Drake digs for crude oil, has a crude oil well. He does this in 1859 in the little town of Titusville.
Titusville, yes.
Which is way up in the north.
Been there.
West corner. Yes, I think we've discussed that maybe.
Sort of.
You discussed another stop on your
hole.
way to Titusville.
Pit hole.
Yeah. Yes, if you see our pit hole episode of where you've been lately, I think we do mention Titusville in passing. So he found oil there, and he distilled the oil that he got out of that drill to make kerosene. So, because really what he wanted to do was use the kerosene for, lighting lamps, other kinds of kerosene-fueled things. Gasoline was a byproduct of the distillation process that made kerosene, and it was considered a waste product. They threw it away. It wasn't used for anything until the automobile came along, and people realized that that was a good fuel for the internal combustion engine of a car. So at first, we don't have nice gas stations like the one here with these beautiful pumps that I think we've also talked about in an episode of Motormouth, I believe. We talked about the pumps a little bit. Of course, they didn't just happen overnight. Before we had gas stations, customers would get gasoline from a hardware store or from a grocer, and the hardware store would have really big barrels of gasoline, and the customer would go take a bucket or maybe a can like this, fill it up, and then have to pour this into their gas tank. They'd get a funnel, and they'd usually line it with a fabric, and that was to filter out impurities because the refining process was not that great yet. And of course, we don't want water in our gasoline. That was a big one to get out of there.
I'm thinking, you're using a bucket. I don't know, what's a bucket? 2 gallons maybe.
Yeah.
And you're doing that, and I'm thinking, boy, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I don't think people went through as much gas back then.
No,
it was It would last them a while, so it was worth the chore.
Like we go through so much gas because we all drive in our car. Pretty much, we get in our cars and drive to work and then home every day, and that wasn't really as common as I would think. People in cities, there were still a lot of like trolley cars around and still carriages and just walking, ways to combat that. And there, weren't as many cars.
No.
You probably took, 2 to 3 miles. 3 to 4 miles. 4 to 5 miles. 5 to 10 miles. 10 to 15 miles. 15 to 20 miles. 20 to 30 miles. 30 to 40 miles. 40 to 50 miles. 50 to 60 miles. 60 to 70 miles. 70 to 80 miles. 80 to 90 miles. 90 to 100 miles. 100 to 200 miles. 200 to 400 miles. 400 to 500 miles. 500 to 600 miles. 600 to 700 miles. 700 to 800 miles. 800 to 900 miles. 900 to 1,000 miles. 1,000 to 2,000 miles. 2,000 to 3,000 miles. 3,000 to 4,000 miles. 4,000 to 5,000 miles. 5,000 to 6,000 miles. 6,000 to 7,000 miles. 7,000 to 8,000 miles. 8 your car on a trip maybe on the weekend or something.
To the local, just outside of town.
Park,
You know,
picnic area or something.
Just kind of getting away probably from what you're saying, but I'm thinking of people who would travel like across the state or to the next state or something, where you weren't even sure where gas was.
Right.
You were hoping that hardware store was open.
Right.
You were hoping there was a hardware store that was
Exactly.
open.
If you were smart, you would take along a can of like this or two, because I mean, how many miles can you really go anymore without hitting a gas station on a major route? It's
miles.
I mean, even Boyertown
Yards.
here, we've got what, 4 gas stations I can think of, like right here. So obviously that was not the case back then. So this is kind of a messy process, but that's what worked. And then gas pumps start to come around in like the teens and grow in number, obviously, as we said, a lot more now. But these particular cans, you know, okay, they're gas cans, they hold 5 gallons each, but not only are they important to us because they were, you know, part of the early automotive experience, they're important to us because, as we can tell from these great little name tags on here, they were made in Philadelphia, which is cool. The company is George D. Ellis and Sons, and they started in 1843 in Philly. They would later incorporate in 1887, so I'm not really sure how that affected their businesses or business practices, but they were around for a long time. They started out making mechanics tools and other metal products. Metal products were their specialty. So if you look at these cans on the top, and even on the badge, it says, you know, George D. Ellis, but then it also says Ellisco. Ellisco. Who knows?
I'm going with Ellisco.
Ellisco, me too. Makes sense, because his name was Ellis. That name, they started at least doing business as Ellisco in 1920. So I'm not totally sure on the age of these, teens or 20s, because they're still referring to the George D. Ellis name. So the factory itself was located at the corner of Luzerne and North American. That's the modern factory that you're going to see on your screen. When I was looking at historic aerials, which is a really fun website, that'll take up a lot of your time. I saw in 1948, it looked like a vacant lot there at Luzerne and North American. And then in 1950, I saw what I believe to be that building that you're seeing on your screen, which looks very 1950, almost like a school. It looks like a 1950 office building or school or something, doesn't it? Just brick, one floor. But I think it says in there, like the new modern plant.
New modern.
Yeah, new modern.
Including with the smoke coming out of the smokestacks.
Yes, the new modern smoke coming out of the smokestacks. That building is still around, actually. It's government offices for the city. So the building is still standing. And the company was around for quite some time. In the teens and 20s, Ellisco filed patents on metal can fastening and twist-off lids. And as we discovered earlier when we were setting up, they do twist off, don't they?
Oh, yes, they do. This one. That's closest to me.
There's no new dents, we promise. No, there really isn't. Ellisco had another manufacturing facility in Pennsauken, New Jersey, and they made metal seamless tins. And the Philly plant specialized in metal cans for petroleum industry. So these really probably actually were out of the Philadelphia plant as opposed to the Pennsauken one. Although they're our neighbors, we'd still accept there.
Yeah.
We'd still accept that.
Greater Delaware Valley.
That's right, it's part of the Greater Delaware Valley. Now in 1986, Ellisco is bought out by CSS Industries, which made metal containers. CSS eventually moves the Philly plant production to Baltimore, where they already had a factory. They merged a couple of these types of companies together, CSS. Ball acquires CSS in 2006.
As in the canning jars?
I think so, but also metal products.
Right.
So I guess they do both. They do the glass and the metal.
Well,
so
the lids are metal.
yeah, Ball acquires them in 2006. They're still manufacturing at the Baltimore plant, and supposedly Ball has a cataloged archive of over 600 dies and tools for their, what they call heritage products. So they may still be able to make these cans down there. Don't know. Now, sometimes the Ellisco would make like what I call like a generic can. You just see all fluted metal here around the whole thing. These two have names in the front. This one's a GRCO. I'm assuming that's referring to Gulf Refining Company. But the blue one reads Sunoco around it, so it fits in perfectly with our Sun Oil station.
Yes.
So that's a little bit about these cans, about why people would have used something like this for some time. Of course, we have them in a gas station with pumps, but logically, like we were just saying, it would not be uncommon for you to take gas along with you on a trip, because where's the next gas station? Who knows? And also, they didn't have my handy dandy GPS that tells me where the next gas station is when I want to ask. So
no, they don't.
It was kind of a scary, maybe not scary, but you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of cars, we talked about this before, don't even have gauges in them. So you're kind of guessing how much gas you have while you're driving. Real quick, a fun fact about gas stations that I came across when I was doing research for this. Gas stations were the first commercial buildings designed to be set back from the road.
Wow.
Which makes total sense. I never really thought about that. Of course, if you go, like even in Boyertown, you'll see all the houses are right there. I mean, and the businesses, the storefronts are right there, right on the edge of the road practically. But you can't do that with a gas station, because now you've got cars parked there filling up. It takes a while. They're blocking traffic. So gas stations are the first ones to
I've seen
set back from the
photographs
road.
of early gas stations, and it actually might be an offshoot. It might have been a hardware store originally.
Right.
But they have gas pumps such as these right here, but right on the curb.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like we're standing on this fake road here, this rug, and this would be the regular sidewalk and with the gas, and that's how it would be in real life.
Well, yeah, because
and you just pull
where
on the
else
side
did you
road.
have to do?
And then the store would be right there.
There's a I don't even know if it's still a functioning gas station anymore. There's a gas station in Morgantown, like the town of Morgantown. I'm talking drive through on Route 23 through Morgantown. And there's a little gas station there, and the pumps are like right there. I mean, they're right off the road, but it's an older building. That's probably the only place they could fit it. And they're so tight, all the buildings are together. You can't put it off to the side or in the back. There's no easy way to drive around. So yeah, the first commercial buildings to do that.
About that.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
that's the fun fact.
That's it. That's your fun fact. Keep it in your head for your next party. You'll be the life of the party just like I am.
Oh yeah.
So thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of Casing the Joint. We will see you next time with another smaller treasure at the museum. Thanks.